For example, let's say if you go to Pipedrive is going to have CPQ workflows. If you go to Sugar CRM is going to have CPQ workflows natively built that you're not going to find inside Salesforce or HubSpot. So the CPQ workflows are very important as well, and they are very industry specific. CPQ for data center is very different than CPQ for manufacturing. Even for IT companies, it's going to be very different. For accounting firms, it's going to be very different, even though these all are going to be very service-centric spaces.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. If you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution. And for today, we have Creatio. And Creatio is a very interesting solution. They are in the CRM category. Some people might not agree with it. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. My quick intro, Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the analyst and advisory firm. We are independent, vendor agnostic. On that note, Andy, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sam. Like every week, I really appreciate you allowing me to participate. I've been involved in ERP software for manufacturers all my life, or since 1981 anyways, which is way before Shasta was ever born. So, or Sam for that matter, I think.
Yeah, nobody was born at that time.
Nobody, I was the only one alive. Yes,
yeah.
yes. So if you ever want to have a history lesson on ERP, I'm your man. I've worked all over North America, over 1,000 manufacturing companies, and I use a lot of my experience to help people uncover the truth about ERP systems prior to purchasing. I interview a lot of manufacturers, and I'm pretty familiar with most systems out there. But anyways, thank you so much, Sam, and looking forward to today.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you, Andy. Thank you so much for being here. Shrestha, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Shrestha Das, and I'm working as an industry research analyst at Elevate IQ. And super excited to learn more about Creatio today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, guys. And if you're in the audience joining for the first time, we always encourage everyone to send their any sort of comments, stories. We like to create that three-way conversation. So looking forward to reviewing those. And on that note, I'm going to start with the quick briefing here of Creatio. So Andy, Shrestha, I don't know if you guys were part of Pegasystems review that we had done in the last few weeks. I would say Creatio is probably going to be closer to that. For the most part, obviously, they have substantial market share, I would say, in the CRM space. But primarily, they are not necessarily CRM. They would fall into more of the BPM, low-code, no-code category. They do a lot of composable app development, I would say. And then they have some terms called dynamic case management, which is the term that we encountered with Pegasystems as well. So the majority of the systems that are going to be Pegasystems like, and again, they are attacking slightly more ad hoc category. This is what we saw during Lead Squared review as well. I don't know, Andy, were you there when we did Lead Squared?
Yes. Yep.
Right. So, but I mean, they are going to be slightly more rigid data model. ATO was trying to attack very similar problems as well, that in these industries, you would need a little bit fluid processes, fluid data model. In general, the processes are going to be, number one, ad hoc, and number two, they are going to be super busy that in most cases cannot be handled using the standard mainstream sales-centric CRMs, and that's why these tools exist. So they are going to have a place in specific industries. In fact, if you look at the CRM category, even though people sort of generalize that CRM is a CRM is a CRM, CRM is not a CRM is not a CRM. Okay, so CRM is applicable only for few industries, just like ERP. In the other industries, you are probably going to have very different need in general. Now, some people might argue that what tools such as your Creatio Pegasystems, they are going to be slightly more in the customer engagement space, which is a category in itself. Some people might argue that what customer engagement should be part of the CRM category. So there is always going to be layers to that debate around what is what, I guess. uh,
Well, that's like every system in the market, right? I mean, I was going to make a comment that you mentioned the low code, no code. I mean, already that's become a bit of a non-meaningful
yeah,
adjective, right? It doesn't have
buzzword in short, I guess.
a buzzword. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I guess most companies have acquired some sort of low code, no code, and obviously their goal is going to be to minimize or expedite the development cycle as much as possible. That's why they all are trying to acquire these low code, no code companies. And in other cases where the companies that started as low code, no code, then they have to compete with the other categories. Low code, no code was always more of a technical problem, so competing with business category is always harder. So what they had to do is they had to pick up one of the lanes. Some people picked CRM lanes. Some companies picked ERP lanes. For example, let's say if you look at ERP like Next World, they are claiming that low code no code is going to be hard, but none of the low code no code companies are as successful in general. The reason why these companies are successful overall is because they are attacking a category, because at the end of the day you are competing with these categories, the categories that are going to have business logic pre-baked in general. Low code no code is not necessarily a real differentiator, unless you are going for spaces where you would require very ad hoc workflows. If that is the case, then you would need these. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard. So that's why they have very specific space or place in these industries. So now, going back to some of the competing technologies, obviously they are going to be compared with Salesforce. But again, I don't think Salesforce is as successful in the industry where Creatio or Pegasystem are going to be successful, because they can accommodate a lot more. Salesforce might not be able to do that. If you try to do all of that inside Salesforce, you are looking at a lot more custom development, consulting, customization. I don't know what, millions and millions of dollars is what you're looking for. Okay, and in some cases that might not even be possible. For example, if you go to verticals like telco, they have very specific integrations, very specific regulations. Financial services is the same. Things such as your KYC. Now, building that, you might find some add-ons in the Salesforce ecosystem, and Salesforce may be there in certain companies, but for the most part, it's probably going to be really hard in general. And that's where these tools have higher adoption in these verticals compared to your mainstream CRMs. So again, when you look at mainstream CRMs, I guess the only ones that are going to be compared are probably going to be Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics 365. And the reason why these two are generally compared in this space is because they have very highly customizable model. They position themselves as more of the platform play. And when you talk about platform, their claim is that you can build pretty much anything on that. So you become more of the programming languages, but at the same time, you are still dealing with a very constraining data model, and you are going to run into issues because of that. The way low code no code platforms work is they are exposing slightly more technical model, the way programming languages are going to work, but even then you are going to run into constraints. So even though these guys are super flexible as well, but they will tell you that what, don't go overboard with your customization.
Right. Which is kind of like the opposite of what they're promoting.
Well, so it's going to be more customizable than something like Salesforce, Microsoft, I would say. Just because their model is slightly more technical, they have a lot more layers that they are able to accommodate, but that does not mean that it has infinite scalability. And sometimes people just misassume that anytime anybody is saying customizable, that means it's infinitely customizable as well as scalable. That's not how any systems are supposed to work. So do your research, understand the limitations. Again, you need to pay attention to the limitations. Sometimes they are going to be expressive about it, and sometimes you are going to find out after signing the contract.
I always tell everyone, all my clients, that the word custom is a 4-letter word in the ERP business.
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody has eaten the other letters, I guess, right, Andy? What's the joke there?
It's just my weird humor,
It's not weird. It's a good humor. Okay. So now you are going to be compared with some of the other systems as well. For example, HubSpot. Now, HubSpot likes to argue that, what, it's the most customizable system out there. But you are going to have fun. If you try to accommodate these processes inside HubSpot, it's not designed for that. It's the most constraining system out there. With respect to data model, it's not designed to be as customizable as Salesforce, Microsoft. So, HubSpot, if you're using for marketing automation, great idea. Don't try to use for the use cases where Creatio is being used. It will fire back, I guarantee it. Now, you have systems such as Pipeline. Zoho is probably going to be slightly more customizable than HubSpot, I would say. But again, even Zoho has a lot of constraints as well.
It has many constraints, but
Exactly.
it is, you can move it around a little bit.
Yeah. So I would put that in a slightly lower category than Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics 365. They are a lot more customizable in general. Zoho is attacking slightly smaller accounts, I would say. It's not as enterprise, in terms of the customizability. So you are going to run into those constraints as well, even though you might find Zoho in these verticals as well, where sometimes they are going to be used as the replacement for Creatio. Now, if you are, evaluating Keep and Creatio together in one deal, something is off. Something is absolutely off. You should not be including these two in the same deal. Okay, so if you are very small account, maybe Keep is probably a better idea. Don't go for Creatio because it's going to be substantially expensive for you. But if you're looking for slightly more customizable system, then Creatio is probably a better choice. Keep would not work there. ATO is probably going to be compared just because of their claim of fluid data model, or you could say no data model. But you are going to have fun with data integrity. So even though they might claim that they are able to accomplish the same things as Creatio or Pegasystems, they are going to achieve. Again, you're going to have fun with data integrity just because the data constraints are missing. Even though, I mean, it's super hard at this point of time. They are arguing against Salesforce's constraining data model. But again, I don't think ATO, you are going to find the same data integrity that you would find with the likes of Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics 365. And the reason why these systems are so constraining is because they are trying to help you with data integrity. And that's where Creatio is going to be helpful, because Creatio has fluidity plus your data integrity. So for the space or for the need, ATO is trying to argue that need was served by systems such as your Creatio and Pegasystems. Now, it's a different argument that most people hate them. The reason why they hate them is because they might come across as overly bloated and overly complex. But when you need the fluidity, scalability, you need to deal with a little bit of complexity. Again, these systems were designed for consultants so that they can configure for you according to your ad hoc processes. And that's where you need a lot more expertise on top of your no code, low code systems for them to work according to your process. Lead Squared is an interesting beast, at least as per their claim that they are able to attack a lot more fluid spaces. But for the most part, I mean, we didn't see in their data model how they are able to do it. To be completely honest, even though they have a lot more logos in these spaces. So do a little bit of research in terms of what they are claiming and how they are going to do it and how they are going to do their data model. We just don't have enough answers at this point of time. So we would not be able to comment whether Lead Squared is going to be comparable where you would use Creatio or Pegasystems. Now, the real BPM low code no code category, when you look at, that's the Pegasystems. ServiceNow is trying to attack that market as well. ServiceNow has already announced that they are already in the CRM category. They are not going to have as much functionality as other systems, but Pegasystems, ServiceNow, Creatio, they all are attacking the same category, same need. And they are very similar systems. The only difference is going to be that Creatio is going to be a little legacy because it was created maybe 15 years back. ServiceNow is a newer system now. ServiceNow has made this category really hot, just because of the user experience that they are able to provide, the kind of technology they have. But again, they are very, very, very similar systems in general. The difference between Creatio and ServiceNow is going to be that Creatio is going to be slightly easier compared to ServiceNow. ServiceNow is attacking a lot more enterprise workloads. Pegasystems is the same. That is going to be a little bit more bloated compared to your Creatio. Creatio would be slightly friendlier for smaller to medium-sized businesses if you're looking for the ad hoc system. Again, I don't see a reason why they would be compared with something like ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign, and generally, most companies, what they are going to do is they will use something like Creatio for their the sales processes or the customer facing processes that they are going to have from the sales operations, marketing operations perspective. But then they might use a marketing automation system on top. You don't want to design all of those marketing automation workflows inside your operational system. And that's where, if you look at Sugar CRM, they have already started pitching that, their system works well when you look at the whole sales processes. And you might want to use something like, HubSpot Active Campaign on top of it for the actual marketing automation workflow. Generally doing the marketing automation workflows inside the core CRM is probably not the best idea. And that's why even with Salesforce, sometimes companies use HubSpot or similar systems. In the education not-for-profit space, where you are going to find Creatio, you are going to have a lot more systems. For example, Anthology, Reach, Campus Nexus, Solution, CRM, Element 451, and they would be comparable to your Salesforces of the world, but with a lot more functionality for not-for-profit education that you don't have to build. But most of them are going to be much smaller systems compared to these enterprise-grade systems, which is your Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics 360. Now, the industries is where the real trick is. So where you are going to find Creatio is insurance, healthcare. Healthcare is very unique, the way it works, the kind of integrations it is going to have. So healthcare CRMs are very different. You are going to find Pega, you are going to find Creatio, banks. I like insurance too much because it has insurance is repeated twice here, I guess. And then real estate is a unique beast as well, travel and marketplace. And these are the verticals that ATO was trying to attack. Pegasystems, you're going to find a lot of exposure. They are going to have tons of market share here. Lead Square is trying to do the same as well. I'll keep moving here unless you guys have any comments. Okay, so I'll give you a quick brief in terms of the comparison. I think we have already touched on a lot of these points. So from the Creatio perspective, generally, when you look at the closeness of the systems, where you should be bucketing Creatio under. So Creatio, Pegasystems, and ServiceNow are probably going to be the three most comparable system. If you are including all three in your evaluation, that means you are doing something right. You might include Lead Squared as well, because they are going to be present in very specific verticals, and maybe Salesforce. Okay, but again, I don't think with Salesforce, I think you are going to find interesting challenges. So if you are evaluating and if you have a real need for a BPM tool, then you should be going after Creatio, Pegasystems, and ServiceNow. Again, for specific industries, insurance, financial services, real estate, travel to some extent, you might be able to include these. Now, when you look at Creatio, it's going to be a little easier, I would say, from Pegasystems. Pegasystems does come across as extremely bloated, even though they are going to have a lot more capabilities when you are looking at the enterprise grade, call centers. When you are going to have, let's say, 5,000 people in your call center, then your needs are going to be very different than a company that is going to have 50 people in the call. So if you have 50, maybe Creatio is probably a better choice. When you have 5,000, 10,000, and you have real, telco integration, and you have a lot of different workflows, you have the whole mortgage process that you need to automate. For those scenarios, you are looking at something like Pegasystems. Creatio would be more of the SMB version of, Pegasystems, much easier to manage compared to Pegasystems. And ServiceNow as well. Pegasystem, ServiceNow, they are probably going to be very enterprise grade. So ServiceNow would be equally expensive as well, just like your Pegasystems. Creatio is going to be more on a lighter. So I think we have already touched on some of these points that they all are going to be bucketed in under low code, no code. They are trying to position themselves as advanced data model, composable app development. So with Creatio, Pegasystem, ServiceNow, you are also going to get infrastructure to be able to develop their apps. If you go to, for example, systems like Zoho is going to claim that, what, I'm providing you platform and infrastructure as well. You should be able to create apps on my platform as well. But the real difference between these two is going to be whether you are dealing with the low code, no code layer, or you are dealing with the real programming language. Now, don't ask me which is going to be faster, which is going to be cheaper. Low code, no code could be equally expensive. You might need to go through consultants because there is going to be a lot of proprietary intel that you need to master, and sometimes that could come across as very frightening, even for consultants or developers. So again, it's your choice in terms of which one you like more. Zoho might be able to argue that we are exposing the same things as well, but again, they are not designed for the same workload that Creatio Pegasystems they might be able to do the heavy lifting with. Their architecture is very enterprise grade in general for very enterprise centric applications. But if you are looking for very small application, with your CRM, you are probably SMB. Zoho might be okay for that. So if you are interested in more details about any of these systems, we have reviewed pretty much all of them. So check on our YouTube channel. The easiest way to find them would be Pegasystems Elevate IQ, and you should be able to get the link. ServiceNow Elevate IQ, you should be able to get the link. If you're still not able to find, ping any of us on LinkedIn, and we'll be more than happy to help. So we are not going to get into details for each of these. So now let's move to the next slide. So these are different historical stories that we have captured. So we are going to touch on their history, evolution, where they come from. So they started somewhere in 2011, and in 2011, I would say it was a very different world. We didn't have much of the cloud for the most part. In their case as well, I mean, they were very on-premy the way Sugar CRM was, and Sugar CRM was trying to attack very similar problems as well, but they were primarily concentrated into manufacturing, distribution, industrial centric verticals as opposed to this. So at that time in 2011, BPM probably was still hot. In fact, Creatio's previous name was BPM Online. Can you believe that? So they became Creatio probably in somewhere 2019. So they have very BPM centric, origination. BPM is no longer hot as a category. That's why everybody has sort of kind of moved away from BPM. They all started calling themselves as workflow management, so many different things. Yes, the technology has come a long way. The newer BPM tools are much better, but for the most part, from the usage perspective, they are serving the same purpose, the purpose that we had for BPM, which would mean that when you look at system to system interaction, then you are looking at iPaaS like categories. When you are looking at human plus system interaction, from the call center agent perspective, when you have to collaborate with your customers, vendors, etc., that's where your BPM processes are going to be very handy. In general, if you look at ERP centric spaces, manufacturing, distribution centric spaces, generally these needs are served by some of the customer portals, because for the most part their processes are going to be fairly streamlined. They don't change on a daily basis. When you look at the insurance industry, the regulations are changing on a daily basis. Banks regulations are changing on a daily basis, and they need to change their workflows as things are changing. That's the real difference between slightly more collaborative categories versus slightly more formalized, standardized categories. So for the categories where you require fluidity, that's where these tools are going to be really, really good, and they are really good at sitting on top of many different technologies. Whether you talk about email, Dropbox, along with your GRC workflow that you are going to have inside your ERP. So you are looking at the whole security workflow enterprise wide, and then you are attacking many different channels, email, websites, whatever you have in your technology mix. All of that can be formed as the enterprise layer. That was the overarching intent of BPM. New term for that could be workflow automation, but they both are very similar things in my mind. They had some very unique, elements in their with their pricing as well as with their distribution model that we had seen with Active Campaign, with Sugar CRM. So they had concurrent pricing. We have seen this with Appicore as well. Appicore does that even in SaaS. So even if they are going to have SaaS, their pricing is going to be very on-premy, meaning they are offering concurrent users, which is generally not, something that companies like. But there are some companies that are doing that, so they still have a lot of price play. So you are going to hear arguments that for HubSpot, you are probably going to pay $100,000. Creatio might be much cheaper, from the licensing pricing perspective in general, at least as of today. Okay, so the other point that we have here is their background in general. When you look at the dynamic case management category, BPM category, they were always very deep into the whole service desk category. Service desk was always part of that, because when you are going to have these call centers that would require telco integration, you sort of need to know who's calling. You need to be able to greet them when you have all of these telco centric workflows. That's where you get into the whole customer engagement category, which is very different compared to the real CRM category. They were never as integrated into the core telco workflows. So that's where I guess this is going to be slightly more customer engagement category. And now that category is served by the likes of your ServiceNow as well. And that's why, if you notice, they have ITSM. That's how these guys started as well. That's exactly what ServiceNow is trying to do right now. And Pegasystems is the same as well. Then we have some more comments here. So now this is the interesting quote here that we have captured from one of their news stories, and they are saying that BPM Online improves customer service for the world's fifth largest search engine, and I'm pretty sure you have never heard of that. It's called Yandex.
Never heard of it.
Right. So I guess, if you look at the where these guys originated, I think their origins are either Russia or Ukraine, and Yandex was from there as well. So that's why you have a little synergy there, I guess. But again, I don't think they are as big now or as present. At least, that's not visible from their site at this point of time. I don't know, but their claim was this. So sometimes these companies might be able to get these logos, but they get it just because they have some bias. In my personal experience, that's why they're able to get it. So you should probably ignore that. Okay, and then they had presence in the real estate as well, which is the vertical that I was talking about. That for these solutions, real estate is probably going to be one of the verticals where these guys are going to be really present. In general, the sales-centric CRMs, they don't necessarily work for real estate, and the reason for that is because they are going to have a lot more customer personas, customer journey. It's very different the way real estate workflow works, and that's why they require a lot fluid solutions. Okay, so I'll keep going here. So still in 2011, I guess. So here they are saying that they have merged CRM plus BPM functionality. That is the mindset even Pegasystems is operating. So I'm not surprised here. For the most part, the BPM tool is trying to serve CRM category. That's what these guys are. Now, they had acquired a company, SpecTech, I guess. So they announced that SpecTech, a multinational asset management software and service provider, had selected BPM Online. So in general, the asset management software tech, SaaS-centric companies are going to have very fluid workflow as well. They are going to have a lot thicker, IT department. So generally, their selection process is different, I would say, the way they choose any software, and that is the reason why they may have chosen Creatio. I don't know. IT companies in general, even today, they would probably go for something like ServiceNow. Even software companies, tech companies, ServiceNow is very well penetrated. So I can see why they would go for something like this, because their workflows are very unique. It's not as formalized as some of the other end users. Okay, so some more comments here. In this case, the manager wanted to introduce a single combined CRM and project management solution. CRM plus project management flavor we have seen with Sugar CRM as well. They had that. I don't know how long they are going to continue. Sometimes the whole project management functionality need to be part of CRM workflows. Some companies just don't like to correlate the financials with the project management. I don't know how long they can go with that mindset, but sometimes they just like to keep it separate because they don't necessarily care for cost. So if they care for cost, as well as the utilization, financials, cost accounting, if they care for all of that, then the project management functionality would reside inside ERP. If they don't care for that, then it would reside inside your CRM layer. Sometimes companies have project management layer in both, and they are manually sort of reconciling that. To be completely honest, just because the teams are not willing to use the ERP-centric project management processes, and that's why they would keep inside CRM that, okay, whatever you want to do operationally, you can do that, and just report back what you have done, and then I'll try to accommodate, either in FP&A or inside ERP. So that's why you have sort of the mixed architecture in general in these spaces, especially the project-centric organizations that are not going to be very inventory heavy, asset heavy, cost heavy. Um, um, okay, so I mean they were primarily an European company, but then they penetrated North American market as well, somewhere around that 2012, I believe. So they are doing that. They had something like BPM Online Agent Desktop, which is going to be a very thick workflow for agents. Mimicking that inside any CRM is going to be terribly difficult, and that's why I feel that these CRMs are very different. If you are going to have extremely busy call center, you need to go for something like that. You wouldn't Salesforces of the world is probably not going to work for you. We saw with Microsoft that Microsoft is trying to include some of this functionality as part of their the whole customer engagement as well. They have call center module as well, but again, the call center module that they are going to have, it's not going to be as busy as this. This is a very different workflow, very different process, for agents. And I think you'll find surprising challenges there with Microsoft and Salesforce. So the categories that they are replacing, I don't know if you have ever heard of this, okay? But there were vendors such as HP. HP OpenView was the vendor that was present in this category. Now, I don't know where their market share is, but this is deep into telco, deep into call center. That's what we are looking at here. So HP OpenView was a vendor. There are like many different vendors that are in the whole IT case management, IT quality management, call center management, telco management. There's so many different software categories. So now you are getting into that. And that's why the customer engagement category is very different compared to your CRM category. Okay, I'll keep going here. So 2013. So here, and if you look at Gartner, and this is, I believe, from Gartner, right? I think so. So here they are saying in 2023, Gartner had rated them as Customer Engagement Center, CES category, which is the right category. Even today, I think they would be positioned in that category. I don't know if Gartner is still continuing with this quadrant, but this is the right home for these. 2013, they are saying BPM Online taps CRM veteran for, this is the Americas expansion. And obviously they come from CRM world. This person had worked with Salesforce as well, so they were very deep into the CRM world. And then now we have the release of XRM, and release of XRM. And again, the whole idea of XRM was that you can do a lot more, I guess, from the relationship management perspective. Some people
What
might
does
have
XRM mean, or what does it do, Sam?
anything RM. It's like X means anything.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So this would be things such as so in this case, they are saying effectively plan sales, manage projects, process customer case. But for the most part, I guess the reason why they are using XRM is because sometimes you are going to have the supplier relationship management as well. And that itself is a category in general. Now, standard CRMs, they don't necessarily accommodate the vendor-centric workflows. And if you want to manage those are going to be too many customer journeys, too many journeys that you need to accommodate as part of one CRM, and sometimes that could be overwhelming for these CRMs, and that's why Creatio is going to be a better fit. Let's say if your vendor journey is equally important, if you have business model such as your marketplace, where you are going to have two different customers and two maybe many different and then many different vendors. If you have all of that, then you would require something like this. And this is the exact argument that we saw with ATO as well. This is what they were trying to argue, that Salesforce does not work for complex business models just because they are going to have a lot more customer journeys. So that would be XRM, Andy. So here now, when you get into the real depth of the telephony, solutions, for example, Avaya, Cisco, Asterisk. Now these integrations are very deep. The way they work, okay, these are systems in themselves. So you need to have very tight integration with them. In general, the call center systems are very different. The way they work, you have a lot of different call center systems. So with Salesforce, you would probably require those along with the CRM. In these cases, they are able to, I believe, manage these integrations. And there are a lot of different regulations, compliance that you need to manage from the telco perspective as well. It's very difficult and very deep. And that's why, again, the customer engagement category is very different. You are going to find the flavors of customer engagement, even with solutions such as your Zendesk. They are very deep. And that's why Zendesk, even though they are going to be in CRM market, but they are not necessarily in the CRM market. You know, uh, so they were named here by CRM magazine, I guess, in the Salesforce automation category, which is probably the right thing. But again, I think Salesforce automation, even you are going to have Salesforce there. So unless you talk about the industry and the use case, it's going to be really hard to understand, which Salesforce automation are we talking about. Okay, so some more comments here. This is again comment related to XRM. Um, um, so they have some more layers from the e-commerce perspective as well. They are able to do a lot more. They are talking about omni-channel, so they are able to fit in your e-commerce field sales, POS. So I don't know. I mean, if you would use Creatio for the e-commerce too, depending upon, I would say, the ad hocness of your processes. In general, you are not going to find Creatio to be used in the e-commerce vertical, just because building all of that functionality on top of Creatio may be too much of a heavy lift unless you have your operational processes which are extremely fluid. For that, you are just not able to find anything. Then you probably, this would be a right choice. But let's say if you have the marketplace business model, if you have that and you have e-commerce as a channel, for that, this might still be a better choice. Okay, so terms such as your unified agent environment, agent home, again, these are very customer engagement centric terms, and that's why they are using that. So they are talking about managing request queues, delivering personalized communications, which could be a very marketing automation centric term. But here now in 2025, I guess the whole real time integration aspect has become very friendly as well. It wasn't as trendy in 2011, 2012 when companies were using Creatio. So I don't know if now they would use something like Braze, or Braze was doing really good in the real-time interaction management. Pegasystems claim that they can do that as well, but I don't know how good they are, to be completely honest, in that category. But they should be doing the kind of workloads that they are handling. Um, so here they are able to do that as well, especially when you talk about omni-channel, the real omni-channel, which is going to be your SMS versus a lot of different protocols from the telco perspective. These guys are able to do that. They had some flavors of enterprise social network as well. Again, that's very common with most CRM ERP systems. Everybody's claiming that they have, but I don't know which one you would be using, because at the end of the day, you would probably use many different tools. So sometimes using the social network from these platforms, I don't know how good that is going to be. In most cases, you are probably going to be using something like Slack or Teams, in general. um, so this is where I guess some commentary here related to the whole agent and supervisor workflow from the customer service perspective. For example, just managing queues is a very complex process from the agent perspective. Their performance, the SLA, the NPS, the surveys that they need to do. It's a very different process, and that's why you have very different categories for something like this. Doing this would be nearly impossible in other categories. What these guys are able to do, and that's why the customer engagement category is very different in general. Okay, I'll keep going here. So now we are in 2015. So here they are saying that they have roughly 6,000 organizations. Majority of them, I would say, were in Europe. They might have some penetration in North America as well, but their major logos were either Europe or Asia, or those countries, continent. Then they have some recognition from Forrester, and this is the dynamic case management, which is the right category for them. This is a very unique category, and that's where you're going to find Pegasystem as well. And here we have some comments. They were rated as CRM system for financial advisors, which is the right vertical. For something like this, financial advisors, they are going to have very unique workflow for them. It will be hard for Salesforce to work in these verticals. So financial advisors, financial brokers, mortgage, insurance banks, credit unions. That's where Creatio Pegasystems, they are probably going to be better for.
Service oriented, more or less, or
Um, there could be layers in that as well, Andy. So for example, let's say if you go to SaaS or tech, for those businesses, Salesforce might still be okay. HubSpot might still be okay. But telco has very unique workflows. Media has very unique workflows as well. These are very different industries. Okay, so now this is a very interesting story. So 2017, they had done some integration with MDocs. And I don't know whether you guys are familiar with MDocs. They are very deeply penetrated into telco. They provide a lot of different solutions for telco, and that is going to sit on top of the whole OSS layer, the BSS layer. If you don't have telecommunications background, you might not be familiar with these terms, but you are literally sitting on top of the hardware, the network. So now you require integration with that in telco. The CRM, the customer engagement workflows are that different. So here they are saying the partnership will include integration of BPM Online with MDoc solutions for BSS, OSS, network control, optimization, and network functions virtualization. Now, if you review ServiceNow, ServiceNow is attacking these verticals as well. The reason why ServiceNow is so successful in telco is because they have these integrations natively. So even ServiceNow is a very unique category. They are successful only in certain verticals. And there is a reason why they are successful there. So Creatio was there in 2017, but ServiceNow, I don't know when they started. They probably started somewhere around 2015, 16 as well, in my mind. That's when they became hot. So you are going to find these two there, I guess. I'll keep going here as you guys have comments. Okay, so now, one story from 2013. For whatever reason, I don't know if this is from 2013.
is it the same as the previous slides?
No, this is not the same. I think we have some more, but I think this story is probably repeated, or maybe the date is typos there with the date or whatever. So I'll move to the next one. So here they are talking about they had done integration with Calidus, and Calidus was acquired by SAP. SAP has that now. Calidus was more of the CPQ, sales enablement, I would say, learning customer experience. That's sort of play from the Calidus perspective as well as from SAP perspective. So even though you are going to find a lot inside Creatio, building these workflows might not be wise, and that's why they had partnered with Calidus Cloud. That if you are going to have CPQ-centric workflows, maybe integrate with Calidus Cloud as opposed to building on top of Creatio, because that could be a very heavy lift. So, for example, let's say if you go to Pipedrive is going to have CPQ workflows. If you go to Sugar CRM is going to have CPQ workflows natively built that you're not going to find inside Salesforce or HubSpot. So the CPQ workflows are very important as well, and they are very industry specific. CPQ for data center is very different than CPQ for manufacturing. Even for IT companies, it's going to be very different. For accounting firms, it's going to be very different, even though these all are going to be very service centric, spaces. So CPQ is a very interesting piece of functionality, and there are many industry specific CPQs out there, and CPQ, they get into deep integrations as well. Sometimes they are going to have the hardware integration because they need to source a lot of data for them to enable the whole estimation workflow. So that's why CPQ is always a very interesting category. In this case, they had integrated with Calidus, and Calidus you are going to find in, I would say, tech, SaaS. I don't know. They are not going to have as many integrations, I would say, as you are going to find with other CPQ categories. But Calidus is definitely very deeply entrenched in most of where SAP is going to be present. So that's that integration. Then in 2020, one of the research firm, they had rated them as healthcare CRM. So healthcare again is going to be a very interesting vertical. Pega was there, so this is the right vertical. And again, I think Salesforces of the world are probably going to struggle here. This is an announcement of X Ledger, and they had become its client. So sometimes these accounting firms are going to have very unique workflows as well. Accounting is a very different beast in general for accounting firms. You have companies such as your Thomson Reuters, or there's one. The very specific companies that provide last mile functionality for accounting companies, because 90% of the CRM ERP systems, they don't necessarily work for them. So again, that's a very different beast. So in 2021, they had focused on providing a composable approach as well as the upgrade of ALM tools, which is the application lifecycle management tools, which means they are providing the infrastructure to be able to develop any sort of applications. Now, that's a very different category. In general, when you go to banks, they are probably going to have $30 billion IT budget. That's how big they are. They have those many custom apps, and if you look at SAP's revenue, it's probably going to be $30 billion. so that's how much custom development they do. And for those spaces, bank, insurance, financial services, they require a platform, a standardized platform, so that they are not investing as much in the development. And that's where they like things such as Creatio. Pega systems is very common as well. So again, the whole low code, no code is very development centric platform, suitable for industries where development is going to be more common. So for whatever reason, I think the first story is always repeated on every single
paragraph.
slide.
Yeah, the first paragraph.
Yeah,
they want to really nail that one.
Yeah. We really like that. Okay. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Okay,
yeah.
this. Okay,
I don't know if I told you about this, but
okay. So 2021. I'm gonna move to the next one. So here they are saying achieved highest in history net retention of 132%, surpassed 10 million workflows, launched on its platform daily in 100 countries by thousands of clients. So 10 million workflows.
Net retention of 132%. How's that? I don't get it.
I mean, there's a possibility once you are on these platforms, I don't think you are going to move away that easily. But I think you are questioning the 132%. How does that work, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, the best it can be is 100%, right?
Yeah. I mean, that would be my guess as well, but
Well, we're 110%.
Yeah. Let's put, some more there to make it slightly more believable.
Yeah.
10 million workflows is not a lot, to be completely honest, when we are talking about 1 billion agents by Salesforce. So that's not a lot, but I mean, they have decent workload. Then here we are talking about roughly 68 million minority investment, which is not a lot. Again, in the CRM space, we have seen a lot more in general. So that's not a lot. Now here, this is also in 2021, Forrester, and they had rated them as real-time interaction management. So Pega, Creatio, they all are taking very similar categories. Real-time interaction management is a category that's going to be relevant in media, telco, etc., where you require the real-time interaction with the video, TV, etc. That's where it is going to be handy. So they are rated as well. I like that. Okay. Stories for top 10 best banking CRM software tools in 2022, which is right. They are very well present in banking, clearly. Wow. So this is 5 times in a row. Look at that.
Yeah, but it's really pushing that point that they were on the Magic Quadrant 12 years ago.
Yeah, did you read it? I think this is all done by Gartner, I guess. I mean, they are the one.
Well, they're a big company too.
Yeah, I know.
Lots of money.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have the second line here. So they are announcing the partnership with Net@Work, which is more into the ERP play. So they are sort of trying to attack the ERP industry as well. I don't know how successful they are, but they are definitely trying to get there as the workflow automation tool on top of ERP. And that's why they are signing these partnerships. Now, this is the next one. Next line is going to be even more interesting because they have signed the partnership with workable. And that is the iPaaS category. If you go to Boomi, they are going to say, hey, I have workflow automation as well. So you probably don't need Creatio. Now, these guys are sort of trying to come together because your workable is going to be iPaaS and Creatio is more of the BPM. So that's why they are coming together. But some people might misassume that once you get a low code, no code platform, you can code anything, you can integrate anything, but they have done this partnership as well. One more partnership here, Yellow.ai. So this is the AI first unified customer service automation platform. I don't know what they are doing, to be completely honest. um, we don't have enough data into them, which space they are attacking. Maybe it's just AI first, and I don't know why Creatio would not have AI workflows inside that. So that's a very interesting partnership as well. And this is the new platform that they have launched called Creatio Energy. And here, I guess, this the whole idea of this is they are saying that where AI and no code together set a modern market standard. So now they are trying to introduce AI as well, but at the same time they are signing partnership with Yellow.ai. So sometimes it will be harder, but they are trying to go after AI as well. So I'm gonna stop here. I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna have some comments.
It's interesting. There's like in every type of software out there, there's so many versions, there's so many different products available. And it seems like Creatio's done a relatively good job, like you said, mostly in Europe, but done a relatively good job in the banking and insurance market. But there's so much overlap. There's so, like you mentioned, Salesforce and those types of CRMs may not be as strong in those industries, but there's so much overlap and there's so much, it can only be so confusing for people researching for products.
Yeah, so the only comment I would have there is I would not use the word strong. I would use the word constraining. It's not going to be as fluid. Salesforce data model. That's why they would struggle a little bit more compared to. Yeah.
Right.
More comments, Andy?
No, that's. It's interesting that here's one that's focused on not just CRM but project management as well, and then and you also mentioned that there's all these terms that people are using, like customer engagement center and all these different other terms that are kind of versions of CRM. It's so convoluted, and no wonder it's so difficult to evaluate these.
Exactly, but those are different categories as well. They are not just.
They are, but they all their genesis was CRM, right?
Yeah. Shrestha, comments?
Nothing much, but I completely agree with Andy what he said. Like there are different versions of the same system out there, and lots of overlap between it. So I guess before getting into it, the requirement should be pretty clear, and companies should look for it before they get into it. And yeah.
You always make me smile when you agree with me, Sheshta.
All right, guys. So if you guys don't have any more comments, that's it for today. And that's going to be a wrap. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We're going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.